Thank you, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to Planning Board for Monday, May 23rd. Seeing as how this is our first meeting following the election, we will reorganize as our first order of business. And everybody should have our list of positions and who currently serves. We'll go slot by slot, accept nominations, and then vote. Is Mr. Torgensen with us, Adam?
He is not. He is out until the next meeting with the birth of his newest child.
Okay, all right, so he won't be joining us. So I've served as chair for the past 12 months. I'd be interested in continuing in that role, but if there's anybody else that has interest, certainly we can.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way about chair, but I'll nominate Tanner Cole for the chair.
I would second.
All right, any other nominations for the position of chairman? All right, seeing none, we will vote to elect Tanner Cole chair. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And I for myself. Vice chair.
And likewise, I think it makes sense that I remain vice chair, but anybody else is welcome.
I would nominate Matthew Allison for vice chair.
I'll second.
Any other nominations? All right, seeing none, all those in favor for Matthew Allison as vice chair?
Aye.
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 And I for myself. All right, clerk. Any interest, Mr. Brenner?
What does clerk do? Well, like in practice, what is the actual?
So in practice, typically the clerk will read the hearing announcements. In our case, we have Marjorie doing all the minutes for us.
Yeah.
But that would be a role for clerk, but fortunately Marjorie takes care of that, and that reminds me I need to start recording our meeting.
Tanner remain chair, Matt's vice chair.
Yeah.
And also the clerk serves as chair in the absence of both, as in the absence of both the chair and the vice chair.
Woe befall us all if I'm the one who has to ever take minutes, but yeah, I would be interested in serving as clerk. That'd be fine.
All right, I would nominate Matthew Brenner for clerk.
Second. Any other nominations for clerk? All right, seeing none, all those in favor as Matthew Brenner for clerk?
Aye.
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 And I for myself. All right. So moving on to MRPC. I'm not sure if you would like to continue that, Mr. Brenner, or?
I would not like to continue it.
Okay.
It's a perfectly reasonable lift and interesting to see the Regional Planning Committee. I don't know that I have the wherewithal right now to be a particularly great. If we need someone, I can continue to do it. I'll be frank. I will find a way. But if anyone else is interested, I think they could likely do a better job than I, who is still at 2 years in, sometimes often finding I need to keep learning more.
Yeah. Adam, do you know if we have any upcoming business, so to speak, with MRPC or MJTC in terms of grants and?
We did the planning assistance grant. We worked with MRPC to submit, so we will be working with them over the next if we're awarded the grant over the next 24 or so months on the MBTA Communities program,
Okay.
going through that process. You know, it's never a bad idea to have a finger on what they're doing. Sometimes they have stuff that fits well with us, and other times they have stuff that we just don't have a need for, or we don't have a project that fits into. I don't know that having a representative with them is going to affect the way that the grant works, because we'll be working with staff on that, and that will be a funded grant that the state would be paying them for.
Okay.
I'll warm up what I said earlier. I am perfectly willing to serve in that role again. If anyone wants it, I am happy to hand it off. But, yeah, MGTC is different, but MRPC I could do if I can continue with if need be.
I guess at this point, I'd ask if, it's Amanda?
Yep, I'm
I would
open.
ask if she needs any explanation on what any of these things are.
Definitely the Montechusett Regional Planning Commission. I'm not quite sure what exactly that entails. I'm happy to try out anything, absolutely, but I think a little more detail would be helpful.
Okay. Adam, do you want to give that detail, or do you want us to?
I would be happy to. So Montechusett Regional Planning Commission is one of 13 regional planning agencies created by the general laws of the Commonwealth. They serve a number of communities in North Worcester County. They have planning and transportation staff, and they staff what's called the Metropolitan Planning Organization, or the MPO. The MJTC is an advisory committee to the MPO, and the MPO's role is to take federal highway dollars that come to the state and distribute them amongst the communities within north central Worcester County. The MRPC in and of itself is a quasi-governmental agency that offers technical planning assistance at a fee. Because they're a governmental agency, towns are allowed to skip the 30B procurement laws in order to contract with them to do, to hire them to perform the services that they're capable of. They also administer the District Local Technical Assistance Program, which is, or has been over the past decade or so, an annual program where the governor funds it, and each regional planning agency gets a predetermined amount of money, and they use that to assist communities with forwarding the governor's agenda. And the projects that get priority through the DLTA program have been fairly consistent over the past 3 or 4 years, but they do roll along with whomever is in charge. And the last thing they do is not the last thing, but the last major thing they do is they have been a repository of brownfields funding through grant applications to the EPA. The town of Luneburg has gotten probably close to $50,000 over the past couple of years in environmental site assessment services for the gas station at 925 Mass Ave, right next to the post office there. So the regional planning agency, it's feast or famine. We either tend to find a lot of things that we can work with them on, or the programs they administer are a little more targeted towards larger or even more rural communities than us. So the representative to the MRPC really just goes and collects information and represents the town's interest at their monthly meetings in which they conduct business for the MRPC. You're kind of a legislative, you're a legislator for the Regional Planning Commission, representing the town of Luneburg.
Perfect. Okay. I don't mind volunteering for that. And if I have any questions, I'm sure I can reach out if I get stuck somewhere.
And last I knew, both MRPC and MJTC are meeting remotely.
Okay.
So you can.
And the only caveat to that would be with the remote meeting participation scheduled to wrap up in July, I'm not sure what will come of that going forward.
Okay.
No problem.
And also, are they still meeting in the transportation building? Or not still, but I mean, do they meet in the transportation building or do they meet at the Doyle Center?
No, they meet at Doyle. Their offices are there.
At Doyle, okay.
Yeah.
So do you know where the Doyle Center is? in
No.
Leominster?
I can find it.
Okay.
I'm sure.
Yeah. It's right on, what is that, Abbott Ave in Leominster.
Okay.
So-
Yeah, it's really easy to find.
Yeah.
What is your last name so I can?
Reed, R-E-I-D.
Okay. I would, sounds like everything's copacetic, so I would nominate Amanda Reed for the MRPC representative.
I would second.
Excellent. Any other nominations for MRPC? Seeing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of nominating Amanda Reed for our MRPC representative?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, sorry.
And I for myself. Excellent. Thank you, Amanda.
And you're good with MJTC still? No?
I don't think, MJTC is, I don't believe I can be reliable for that. It conflicts with when I have to get my kids from
2:30,
school.
yeah.
I mean, so if no one else can do it, I can do it and try, but I can't look you in the eye and say I will definitely be there all the time because I have to get my son
Yep.
shortly thereafter.
Now, is MJTC meeting also at the Doyle, or are they at the transportation center there?
They'll meet at Doyle.
Yeah.
Both the Doyle, okay. Well,
Actually, I can be more clear. If they are likely transitioning away from remote, I almost certainly cannot be at meetings because I have to, at 3 o'clock, get my son from school on Wednesdays for some doctor's appointments, so.
And we haven't had representation for MRPC or MJTC for the last 3 to 6 months anyhow. It's not, I mean, it would be really good to fill the role. But
what was he saying?
TV works.
Zoom's back up, so.
I'm looking at it.
If no one can do it, I'm willing to take the role and do my best, but I don't know how much my best really can be in this. I don't know that it's better. Maybe it's better to just not have the role filled, to be honest. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, I can't do that. Any availability? I mean, it's not uncommon for a new member not to take on committee positions, but
I don't mind.
we are pretty much mostly 4, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
lot.
7, yeah.
Well, and that time slot for me is nearly impossible this time of year, so.
I can do it. I'll nominate myself for that.
I'm not sure you can, I'll
Can I?
nominate.
Oh, I can't nominate
I'm
myself.
not sure you can.
Just kidding.
We would be happy to
I would
nominate
be
you.
happy.
I will nominate Amanda Reed for the MJTC representative.
I'll second that.
Excellent. Any other nominations? Seeing none, we will take a vote. All those in favor of nominating Amanda Reed to be our MJTC representative?
Aye.
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 And I for myself. Excellent. Capital Planning Committee. So they currently aren't meeting right now. They will resume their meetings as we get closer to the budget season in the fall.
And this is the 3-year appointment.
What's that?
Capital planning is a 3-year appointment.
Well,
Okay.
it's whatever's left on Paula's term.
Representative, so I don't know how many years are left on her term.
Okay.
I think there might only be one left.
That would make sense because I think she had the 2-year seat here. Does anybody have interest in capital planning? I know, Mr. Allison, you've served in that role.
I have. It's a very interesting thing. You volunteered for something you didn't get a description of, by the way, MJTC.
That's okay.
Okay. So just to tell you what capital planning is, you probably should not overload yourself as a new person, but capital planning is a fiscal grouping where we get requests from different departments for funding special capital expenditures. And basically, you interview the department heads, you get an understanding of what they're asking for, and then the capital planning committee presents a list of a numbered list of importance. They've recently taken up this new thing, and I don't remember what it's called, but it's a criteria, kind of a fill in the number. But they make they present that list to the finance committee and the town manager for the annual budget.
Okay.
It is a short term. It's usually only 2 to 3 months. I would be open to taking it. And just to skip ahead, I would also be open to taking the open space if nobody wanted it. I'm already on the municipal building, so.
Is it breaking rules if we just talk about what might be of interest to us before we go forward? Is that a
Nope,
faux pas?
not at
I
all.
don't have any issues with that, yeah.
So, kind of with the understanding that I'm still waiting on some test results, that if they come back bad, that could preclude all sorts of things from me, but the odds are better I'm going to be fine. Capital planning is far enough away that adding something else on the plate isn't a big deal at that point. I should be more of my old self. I'm willing for that. I'm interested in open space a good deal, but that's not a need for me. Actually, most of the other roles I would be willing to kind of slot in wherever, including stepping back in for Economic Development Committee as my energy is returning. Open space is probably more interesting to me, more closely aligned with kind of my passions, but I'm not picky.
And just to throw my other 2 cents in, is I'm not available on the 3rd Thursday because I've got AgCom, Agricultural Commission, so I can't do Stormwater Task Force.
I don't know. I never know what roles I would and wouldn't be a good choice for because I do not have the engineering and environmental expertise that some other members of the board, current and former, have had. So I don't know if I'd be a good choice on Stormwater Task Force, but that's something I'd be willing as well.
Well, and on the stormwater end of things, the town does have a consultant that handles a lot of the technical stuff. I mean, scheduling-wise, open space fits best in my schedule, and I'd be interested in that. The rest of the roles I've served on the Municipal Design Committee in the past, but, you know, open space is really the only one that pops up on my radar, so to speak. But circling back to capital planning, anybody want to make a nomination for someone on capital planning?
Matt, were you saying you would like capital planning or saying it's fine, I'll do it so we have someone there?
If you would like capital planning, if you have an interest in it, then I'd be more than willing to let you do it. If you don't, then that's fine too.
I think I have an interest in capital planning, but it's not a particularly strong one if you were like gung-ho about it. I find it interesting.
I'm gung-ho about very few things lately in town government,
I understand that feeling.
quite honestly.
Capital planning is certainly interesting from the standpoint that you get to have a much better understanding of each department and their needs.
Yep.
Finance committee is the other role that you dig into a lot of those numbers, but you are afforded the opportunity to meet with every department and talk about their real needs outside of their normal operating expenses. So these are things like, the police department may be looking for bulletproof vests or new cruisers or a canine. Fire department might be looking for a fire truck. The DPW might be looking for a truck. The schools might be looking for desks or furniture or window replacements or whatever. So you definitely get a very good view of where the needs are in town, for sure.
So if you'd like to try it, then I will nominate. Okay, well, I will nominate Matthew Brenner for the Capital Planning Committee.
Do I have to, I second it.
Excellent. Any other nominations for capital planning? Seeing none, all those in favor of nominating Mr. Brenner for the role of Capital Planning Committee Representative?
Aye.
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 And I for myself. Excellent. Open space.
So I also didn't mention that I'd be interested in staying on Municipal Building Committee. This is my second year actual appointed, but I've been following them since they started the TCP. And I mean, it's not critical, but I think it's important that these groups kind of have a continuous momentum. So, and I just wanted to mention that. So basically everybody was interested in open space. Who's most interested?
That's kind of a relative question,
Yeah.
don't you think?
Of course it is.
Are we going to score our interest?
I
From
think
1
all
to
of us
10?
are probably quietly sitting here saying, I think I'm actually the most interested of the three. I get what's going on. I don't feel I am very interested in it, but I don't feel a particularly strong need, and I think that either of you would hold similar enough views to, and be fine with it, so
Well,
I'm comfy stepping back and not needing that one in particular.
not only that, we should share some of the load, because they've taken all the spots so far. All right, I would nominate Tanner Cole for the Open Space Ad Hoc Committee.
I would second, right? We gotta say those things.
Thank you. Any other nominations for open space? Seeing none, we will take a vote on nominating Tanner Cole to be Open Space Ad Hoc Committee Representative. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And I for myself. Thank you. Stormwater Task Force.
Don't thank me yet, because I think I'm going to stick you with that. I'm going to nominate you for it. I think, I very much appreciate you both stepping forward, and especially you for your first time grabbing two. But I think that it's a good idea. I mean, I've been a member to all of these except for the Economic Development Committee, I believe, and Open Space I haven't. And it can be more taxing than it appears at this moment. And at any time during the year, you can step down and we can reappoint somebody. So, yeah, 7. Would you do?
Amanda, do you have an understanding of what stormwater does?
A basic understanding. If there's any more details, that would be.
Adam, would you care to bring us up to speed to where stormwater is in
So
30 seconds or less?
I can't do it in 30 seconds. The Stormwater Task Force is charged with advising the Select Board, the Planning Board, and the Town Manager on the town's compliance with the EPA Phase 2 permit for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It's not a committee that is charged with reviewing, handling, solving stormwater issues in the town. That's the DPW director. The Phase 2 permit requires the town to meet specific minimum control measures on a predetermined schedule by the EPA. And this committee sort of shepherds the town through that process, excuse me, with the assistance of our stormwater consultant, Comprehensive Environmental Incorporated. So it's mostly a lot of looking at how the town intends to spend their money, how they intend to comply with the program, giving feedback on that, and then doing some public outreach and education throughout each fiscal year, July 1 to June 3rd.
All right.
That was these things.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, did our DPW director show up for work? Do we have one now?
I don't know.
Oh,
I believe that they were in last Thursday.
okay.
So, any nominations for Stormwater Task Force?
I don't know who to nominate. Well,
Let's see.
you're expressing
That's
a
it.
disinterest, is that correct?
Third Thursday.
You get to fight over who gets upstairs and who gets downstairs of the Ritter on the third Thursday.
Yep. Because that lines up with AdCom.
Were you interested?
Do you want me to be interested? I mean, I have no scheduling conflict with that. I'm just unsure of my understanding of it. I mean, I suppose if I, like with the other ones, if I have questions, I can reach out.
Sure. And none of
It's
these,
not intended to be a technical position.
Well,
It's not intended to be a group of engineers or stormwater
I hope not.
in town. It's intended to review what our engineer consultant is putting forward and sort of gut check it and say, does this make sense? Is it something that we can do? And frankly, having people who aren't in a stormwater headspace can sometimes bring different ideas that maybe wouldn't have necessarily come that way.
Okay.
So I mean, don't feel that you're going to be technically deficient, because that's not anything to worry about.
there are technically no requirements for any of these positions.
Well, that's good.
Well, you have to live in town.
I mean, yeah, I can do it for sure. And if I have any issues, I can always.
Is that an actual want to do it, or is that a, sure, I'm being accommodating and I'm fine
No.
with this? Because it sounds more like the second. And if it's just accommodating, we can share the accommodation.
Sure, I understand. I mean, I would be happy to try it, and if at some point it's too much, we can share the accommodation, as you said.
Okay.
That's fine.
Okay, and your no? Now that you've got an easier no?
Yeah, I've got a pretty full plate.
So, and I'll just say it now, my concern about new members taking on too much stuff is that planning board itself is a heavy lift. It's a very long curve to learn, to catch up. And I think Matt Brenner would agree with that.
2 years into the role, I am certainly better than I was when I started.
Sure.
I still have a lot to learn.
Well, and the only thing I would add is that it really depends on how much business is coming across our desk. So I joined 4 years ago and went through the marijuana bylaw creation and earth removal regulation review, those were very heavy lifts, marijuana in particular.
Sure.
So depending on how much of that type of stuff we're working on, it, we can have some long meetings for sure. It seems like the last 12 months have been less burdensome.
We've moved into a regulatory as opposed to a policy phase.
Yep. But we do have the master plan coming up, which that is certainly a heavy lift, but it's going to be a number of months before we get that underway.
And my biggest concern is that this board remain intact and fully functioning. And these, in my mind, compared to planning, are kind of secondary. I mean, it's awesome to have all these committee reports and all this cross connection. But I think primarily the focus on planning board should be key. And burnout is not an inexperienced thing here. So, that being said,
Yeah.
I'll nominate Amanda Reed, and we can see how it goes.
I'll second.
All right. Any other nominations for Stormwater Task Force? Seeing none, we will vote on the nomination for Amanda Reed to serve as Stormwater Task Force representative. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And I for myself. All right. Moving on to the Municipal Building Design Committee. Mr. Allison, you expressed interest in staying in that role.
Sure.
I would nominate Matthew Allison for as our representative to the Municipal Building Design Committee.
I will second.
Excellent. Any other nominations? Seeing none, we will vote to nominate Mr. Allison for the position of Municipal Building Design Committee representative. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And I for myself. Thank you, Mr. Allison. And Economic Development Committee, Mr. Brenner, you served on that in the past. Would you?
I could pick up with that again. Time budget wise, that should be doable. If someone else wants it, I don't feel. I find it interesting. I don't feel a deep-seated passion for it, but I'm fine with continuing.
All right.
All right. We'll nominate Matthew Brenner for the Economic Development Committee.
I will second.
Any other nominations? Seeing none, we will vote to elect Matthew Brenner to the role of Economic Development Committee representative. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And I for myself. Excellent. Thank you, everyone. All right, now that we have reorganized, we will move on to our first order of business, which is public comment. Do we have any public comment from anyone? All right.
Mr. Chair, there are a few people here in Zoom. No one with public comment, but you may want to re-announce the continuation for 43 Summer Street.
Okay. So for anybody that's here for the public hearing for 43 Summer Street, the applicant has requested that that be continued to our next meeting, which would be June 13th. Just to let everyone know. All right. Our first appointment is for an A&R for 1 Crocker Ave. Good evening.
Good evening. Just for record, Chris Aarons with Hannigan Engineering. I apologize, I don't have a board or anything for this plan, but effectively it's an A&R plan Properties located in both Leominster and Luneburg. Splitting the lot into 2 lots. What we're calling equivalently the Leominster lot is a standard size lot compliant with the zoning regulations. And the second lot is a backland lot that meets the criteria of the backland lot zoning for the town of Luneburg. We did receive approval from the Leominster Planning Office and Planning Board, so we're here before you tonight for approval for that plan as well.
I have a question for Adam, our
Yes.
land use director. Do we have, I don't see it, but do we have the approval from Leominster?
I believe that it's on the Mylar. I know that the Mylar was dropped off probably end of last week, and I believe it had Leominster's endorsement on it.
There's only one signature.
Yeah, I'm not sure if they may allow their chair to sign.
Did they allow that, Adam? There's only one signature on the Mylar.
My guess would be that they've authorized the chair as the signature.
Okay. Good enough.
I can attest to that.
Thank you.
So basically, you're meeting the reduced frontage lot requirement for the lot size?
Yes, sir.
This is certainly a,
This is the first
Unique
time, this is the first one I've seen like
situation.
this, yeah.
for sure. Have you had any discussions with the building inspector in Luneburg?
I personally haven't yet.
Okay.
But I can say that I know the water and the sewer will be municipal through Leominster, stuff like that.
This is not necessarily uncommon. It's not something that happens every day. Most often, if the lot meets the requirements of frontage in the community where the frontage is, and lot size in the community where lot size is, these are permittable. They have frontage on a public road, and their lot, even if it were wholly Luneburg, would be compliant. Often what happens in these instances is whichever community the building is located in takes the lead on permitting from a building perspective. We had a lot similar to this that was off of New West Townsend Road, and I know that the building commissioner spoke with the building commissioner in Fitchburg, and the frontage was in Luneburg, and it met our frontage requirement, and the building was being constructed in Fitchburg, so the Fitchburg building commissioner would have been the approving authority on the permit and the inspecting authority as the construction happened. I would expect that a similar situation would happen here on this lot, and based on the shape of the lot, the house would have to be in Luneburg.
Now, it's not unusual for us to see the 175 width dimension on our plans. That's not a requirement for the A&R, right?
It is not.
Okay, but you're aware that we have okay.
Yes, sir.
Certainly a complicated situation.
think I see anything that precludes the A&R portion.
No. I think, yeah, I don't see a problem with it. I would just, caution you that, I'm sure you're aware that it's subject to the building commissioner's
Yep.
approval and whatnot.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So at this point, it's just lines on paper until they file for a building permit. And then the building officer looks at it and says that's conforming.
Right.
No? I don't have any other.
I would move that we approve the A&R for 1 Crocker Ave.
I would second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And I for myself. Thank you.
Thank you.
You want to send the Mylar now and give it to him? You wanna-
Would you like the Mylar now, or we can sign it if you'd like?
Adam, that's good?
That's fine. There should be a piece of paper in there for reporting information. I'm sure Mr. Anderson's aware of what he needs to do with it.
Yep.
Thank you.
Along with it.
Take care of that. Oh, do we keep this, or it goes?
No,
goes
that
with
goes with the Mylar. That's for the Registry of Deeds. All right, our next appointment is for a public hearing for Northfield Road and Coleman Street, the stormwater permit, which I believe
I got this one.
If you want me to, certainly. I want to make sure I'm looking at for Holman Street, we said?
yes.
The the Luneburg Planning Board will hold a public meeting on May 23rd, 2022, 6:05 PM. Town Hall I read all the address and everything? Yep. Town Hall, 17 Main Street, Luneburg, MA, to hear and review an application for stormwater management permit under Chapter 204 of the Code of Town of Luneburg for 6 lots at 245 Holman Street. Parcel number 021-001103. Applicant is Harbor Classic Homes, LLC, 493 Lancaster Street, Leominster, MA, 01453. Owner is Bray Ave 9, LLC, 493 Lancaster Street, Leominster, MA, 01453. Materials are available for viewing at the Planning Office, 960 Massachusetts Ave, Luneburg, MA. This meeting will be broadcast live through local access cable on Facebook Live, on the Public Access Facebook page, and will be available to be found on the Luneburg Access YouTube channel within 24 hours after the meeting. To participate remotely from I can stop now? Okay.
Thank you.
You said read it all. I follow directions.
To the T. Thank you. Mr. Marchetti,
Yes, sir.
welcome back.
Thank you. So Brian Marchetti here, here on behalf of Harbor Classic Homes for the stormwater management permit for a approximate 10-acre parcel on the corner of Holman and Northfield. This 10-acre piece was subdivided a year or so ago into 6 A&R lots. The parcels have already been designed for a septic system. They've all been submitted by Northland Engineers and received septic approval. So I'm here now for one of the last pieces for the stormwater permit. So as we said, it's about a 10-acre parcel. It's been divided into 6 lots. Lot A is the house at the southwest corner. Lot A, Lot 1, and Lot 5 are going to be served by a common driveway. Lot 2 is a parcel on its own, served by its own driveway. And then Lot 3 and 4 are off of Holman. They're also going to be served by a common drive, 3 and 4. So according to the stormwater regulations, it's the Massachusetts DEP stormwater regulations on a parcel or a subdivision of a property on 5 to 9 lots that do not discharge to a critical area, which we're in that situation here. The stormwater management standards are applied to the maximum extent practicable. We are meeting all the stormwater management standards with the exception of the peak flow rates for the residential portion. Also, the town of Luneburg has their own stormwater bylaw that requires the 60% total phosphorus removal and the 1-inch water quality volume. We have met both of those requirements for all the lots except for Lot 5 here in the rear of I guess the northwest corner. Groundwater is really high in that location, so even with an at-grade detention basin or rain garden, which we're using for phosphorus removal, we couldn't get a 2-foot separation in groundwater. So we did request a waiver for this lot only just for the 60% phosphorus removal requirement. We have, in lieu of infiltration with a rain garden, we've provided a pea stone diaphragm, which is a stone trench along the shoulder of the driveway that exceeds the 1-inch water quality volume. So it will provide the volume that's required, but simply because we don't have 2 feet of separation, we can't take credit for that 60% removal rate. So we're providing it, but we can't take the credit just because we don't have that separation of groundwater. So water will sheet flow off the driveway for Lot 5. It will stage up and be treated through that pea stone diaphragm, and then it will continue to discharge to the west and north to an existing drainage channel that's located on the western edge of this property. So for Lot A, we've provided a pea stone diaphragm along the driveway and then a rain garden along the frontage of the property. For the common drive, we did the same. Lot 1, the discharge from the driveway will sheet flow to a pea stone diaphragm. It'll be treated in its own rain garden. Lot A and Lot 1 both have a dry well system for rooftop runoff, so it's piped directly to a system below grade where that runoff will be recharged. Lot 2, it's the same drainage design. With the driveway discharges to a pea stone diaphragm along the edge of the driveway, and it discharges again to a rain garden. And then we did the same thing for Lot 3 and Lot 4. In combination, the rooftops, or the rooftop for Lot 3 discharges directly to grade and is actually culverted. Some will be collected in the rain garden that's across the driveway, but some will be discharged through a culvert under the driveway. We had to install 2 culverts here, or design 2 culverts here, because the flows from the majority of this property all trend in that northeast direction. So instead of allowing the runoff to just sheet flow across the driveways, which could lead to erosion in the future, we put small depressions in the yard with a culvert so it would be directly discharged underneath and controlled so the driveway would never be flooded. But again, Lot 3 and 4 both discharge to a pea stone diaphragm, and they're both directed to a rain garden system here to be treated and obtain that 60% phosphorus removal before they discharge off the site. So this drainage design was submitted to Graves Engineering, the town's review consultant. They did provide a letter today back to us this afternoon. And if I could go through, there are 6 comments, but there's really only 1 comment that requests some sort of plan change.
So I'm sorry, we don't have that, right?
You do.
We do.
You should have.
Yep.
It. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So comment number 1 was, even with the implementation of the proposed stormwater best management practices, the post-development peak runoff rates will be greater than the pre-development peak runoff rates. Per section 2041C9, the amount of roof Runoff is required to be equal to or better than pre-development conditions. But furthermore, Section 204-1F2C requires that the stormwater management system design shall be consistent with the intent and guidance provided by the latest Massachusetts Stormwater Handbook. Per the handbook, the stormwater standards apply to the maximum extent practical for residential projects consisting of detached single-family dwellings, provided there is no stormwater discharge that may potentially affect a critical area. In GER's opinion, the proposed stormwater management system meets the intent of Section 204. GEI refers to the planning board for further consideration, if any. So this is consistent with all the other stormwater management permits that we've come before the town and permitted previously. Because they're residential developments, the stormwater management standards don't apply. But for developments with 6 to 9 lots that don't discharge to a critical area, they can meet the standards to the maximum extent practicable. So short of routing the entire system to a big centralized drainage system, typically the peak flow rates are the hardest ones to meet. So, Jeff Walsh agrees that the standard is met according to the stormwater standards. Comment number 2, this is the only one that really required an addition to the plan. Just say the plans need to include the zoning district. We do label it and discuss it in the cover letter, but it's not physically labeled on the site plan. So that can be added to the plan. Comment number 3, GEI understands that a waiver was requested for total phosphorus removal of less than 60% for Lot 5, that the planning board will address the waiver requested. So that, again, is up for discussion with the board if you want to discuss that. But again, the only reason we can't obtain that on Lot 5 back here is because we just don't have the separation in groundwater that's required to be able to claim that 60% removal rate. Then comment number 4 and 5 both concur that the hydrology computations are found to be in order, and 5 is compliance with the Mass DEP Stormwater Handbook is reasonable. And then comment number 6, GEI has no issues with our general engineering comments. So we can answer any questions you have. And based on Graves' letter, it seems like the only modification to the plan is going to be to add a note for zoning for these lots. And there's one other item came up this past week. This site is being separated between a couple different engineering companies. Northland Engineers did the septic designs. They did the notice of intent, but they had us do the stormwater management design. So we had a transferring CAD drawings back and forth to each other. There was a buffer zone line that was left on our plan. So it just shows there's buffer zone going through lots A and lot 5 here. So it's this line here where there is no buffer zone. So this is a drainage ditch off of Northfield Road, and then it turns to wetlands back here. So as part of our resubmittal with the zoning note, we'll coordinate with Northland to make sure that's updated and taken off the plan here. Conservation just had a comment that we had a house within one of their buffer zones, within a no structure zone, but it's not the case.
All right. Let's open it up to board comments, and then once we've gone through any comments and concerns for the board, we'll open it up to any public comment if we have anyone from the public that would like to comment on this. Correct. Yep. We have the one waiver request.
So, not that I think we need to have those inches of thick drainage calculations for every project, but this is the first one I noticed that we don't have them. You said you didn't meet the rate.
Yeah, all the drainage calculations were submitted.
I'm sure they were. I'm sure they're listed here on the Graves report.
Yeah.
I'm just surprised they're not in front of us, which is fine because it's a huge amount of paper that we don't usually look at. Can you tell us what the overages were?
I printed myself the abridged version, so I didn't have to have the whole report. But so for the 2-year storm, let's see here. So let me see here. There's 2 different points of analysis for the site. There's no, you may be aware, there's no drainage infrastructure in Northfield Road or in Holman. So runoff, sheet flows, there's kind of a drainage divide here. Runoff in the front, sheet flows toward Northfield, and it comes back to this drainage ditch. And then the rest of the runoff here flows in a northern direction here back to this drainage swale that's back here. So there's a wetland system back here on the north part of the site. So we broke up into two. One of them is down here in the corner of Holman. Basically, the flows just go to the street, and eventually they make their way across the street. But the rest of it on site here comes back to this drainage channel and this wetland system here. And this wetland system is conveyed up Holman through a culvert. So we'll take into consideration here point of analysis 1, which is down in this corner. The 2-year storm, it's an overage of 0.04 CFS. It's a tiny flow. In the 100-year storm event, it's it goes from 1.12 to 1.78, so that's 0.64 CFS for the 100-year storm event. And then the system here to the north, I explained kind of where it goes just so you have a better understanding. This all sheet flows to a drainage ditch to a big wetland system that gets into the river north of the site. So none of these flows will make it out to Holman and run up the street in front of any other properties. It's directly to a wetland system here. We have, for the 2-year storm, there's a increase from 0.95 each CFS to 2.06 CFS. So that's about a 1.11 increase, 1.11 CFS increase. And then the 100-year storm goes from 15.6 CFS to 19.6 CFS. So it's about a 4 CFS increase.
And the second one, the analysis point was where?
It's this river. It's the drainage ditch to the wetland system here,
Yeah.
to the north of the site.
So that river that it refers to is Mrpc Brook, right? So that channel from Northfield probably also drains into the wetland, which drains into Mrpc.
Yes. Yep.
And you said,
that takes runoff from Northfield Road and other properties on Northfield.
Is there a culvert going under Northfield there?
Not that I know of here. It's just sheet flow off the
Oh,
side of
it's
the
a
road. It's
Okay.
just a depression off the side of the road that collects flow.
well, that is somewhat of an issue. Mrpc is already somewhat impaired. Is that correct?
Impacted.
Im-
It's been impacted.
Well, it's also impaired, isn't it? Anyway, I just wanted to clarify that. And it was lot 5 only that wasn't meeting the phosphorus?
It's lot 5 only that doesn't meet the phosphorus. And again, it only doesn't meet the phosphorus because of the separation of groundwater that's
Because
required.
you can't claim it.
We still provided the volume that would treat it otherwise. So in low flow times of the year, it's going to get the treatment, it's going to infiltrate, it's going to do what it's supposed to do, except by the definition of the bylaw, or not the bylaw, the stormwater standards.
I apologize. Could you start this paragraph over? I missed part of one of the
Yep,
sentences.
certainly. So, the DEP, Massachusetts Stormwater Management Standards, they provide a detail for all of the stormwater BMPs, they're called, the best management practices. And the one that we use for phosphorus removal is infiltration. So in a residential setting like this, we don't want to build a industrial type looking infiltration basin in someone's yard. So the alternative for infiltration BMPs that look appealing like landscape features is a rain garden. It's basically a depression that only has 6 inches to a foot of water when it rains, when it's full. But it's full of mulch, it's full of plantings and shrubs and trees and bushes, so it looks like a feature that you'd see in somebody's yard, but it meets the definition of a stormwater BMP that actually provides phosphorus removal. So one of the requirements to take credit for a rain garden is you need to have 2 feet of separation to the high groundwater elevation below grade. So when you do test pits across the site for stormwater and for septic, you look at the whole site and the soil profile, and you see where that the high water mark is, whether it's modeling in the soil or actual high groundwater seeping out of the side of the test pit. So up in lot 5, it was only about a foot below grade. So no matter what we do, or a little less than 2 feet below grade, so no matter what you do, if you dig a foot in the ground, you're within that 2 feet of separation of groundwater, so you just can't physically claim, unless you fill the site, but if you fill the site, you're not gonna get the stormwater to it, because water doesn't flow uphill. So in lieu of a different type of design, we added along the shoulder of the driveway a pea stone diaphragm. So it's a 3-foot wide trench by foot deep. That's full of stone. It's wrapped in filter fabric. So there's a storage volume. It has filter fabric in it. So any stormwater runoff that gets into it, that washes sand and salts from the driveway, can be collected and trapped. And then it can be cleaned on a yearly basis. So we're providing that volume of water that's required. We just can't take physical credit for it because it doesn't meet the separation and groundwater requirements that DEP defines. So we're as allowed by the regs, we're meeting it to the maximum extent practicable
Okay.
because there's no way to physically meet the requirement.
All right. Thank you.
And that's for lot 5 only, and that's from the driveway from about here. The rest of it does get treated in this rain garden, so it's the section of driveway from here to here. That's the only piece. And that does flow across once it discharges from that, it flows across a grass area, a lawn area, which the DEP regs do provide BMPs in water quality treatment for flowing across lawn for 20 feet, greater than 50 feet, but they just don't, there's no credit you can take according to their charts for water quality on those, but they do provide an additional level of total suspended solids removal.
Great. Thank you.
Any other comments or concerns, questions?
Yeah, from 15 to 19 cubic feet per second is the 4 cubic feet per second doesn't sound like much, but 15 cubic feet per second is a huge amount. And then to increase that by 4. And that's not that's not at an individual point, that's kind of like a boundary.
That's collectively for,
It's like a sheet flow kind of a thing?
well, I mean, what it does is it sheet flows, it gets collected, it gets routed and channeled, and it all collects together downstream. So that's basically at the point of discharge beyond the site. So collectively, it's not 4 CFS everywhere. It's piecemeal. The site's 10 acres and only about...
As you move further down
As you move
the
further
site,
down, just like any
builds.
stream, as it goes down, you have
Yeah.
more points of confluence joining in. It gets bigger and bigger. And that's also a cover type change. So the whole site's forested, but as you clear areas, you can see our limited clearing for septic systems and lawn areas. You change the cover type from wooded to a grass, you're going to get an increase. You add a rooftop, that's why we put these dry wells everywhere for all the rooftops, except again, we couldn't do it on lot 5 because we didn't have the separation of groundwater, and we couldn't do it for lot 3 because of the separation of groundwater.
Sure, well, my big concern about the seemingly minor increase is the increase in erosion, especially this being just upstream from the Mrpc.
Erosion where? Because erosion is being controlled around the entire site for construction. There's erosion control barrier everywhere.
Right, I mean, for the long term.
Yep.
For the long term.
And again, that erosion is controlled. Once it's stabilized, we have the pea stone diaphragms across all the paved areas. We have the rain gardens at the end of all the pea stone diaphragms to control it. You're looking at a tabular accumulation as a result. That 4 CFS, isn't water that's blowing across everyone's yards. That's collectively at the end beyond. You're going to have one point of discharge here from the rain garden. You'll have one here that discharges and comes back to the swale. These discharge. So collectively, it takes a long time to get to the outlet where it's cumulative, and that's where the 4 CFS is tabulated.
And another question, the rainfall data, that's the new updated
That's
one?
the Atlas 14 extreme precipitation data, yes.
So that's more accurate than typically we've been getting?
Yes.
What was it,
That's-
was it TR 45?
Yeah,
previous one?
TP40 rainfall.
TP 40.
It's more accurate, and again, it's the extreme precipitation event, so it's higher than actual, but they want to design now for extreme events as opposed to the TP40, which was, tabular data over the last 100 years.
Well, I certainly share Mr. Allison's concerns. I mean, the Mrpc is certainly it may not meet the definition of a critical environmental area, but it's certainly critical as far as the community is concerned. There are a lot of residents down on Hickory Hills, and inevitably anything that happens upstream on the Mrpc has a impact on Hickory Hills. So, and I know Hickory Hills is wrestling with phosphorus issues, so it's certainly something that we need to take into consideration. Are there any alternatives to the Peastone diaphragm and rain garden for Lot 5 that would work around so that you could meet the offset, or?
The problem is if we raise the driveway, water's gonna drain away from it. There's no way to meet that without raising the entire site up.
No.
And if you raise the entire site up, the water's gonna go somewhere else. So it's basically, we initially tried to put a large depression here to hold it back. But it really is a small portion of the driveway versus compared to the whole property. We're meeting it for, 90% of the paved area and the impervious area and rooftop area that's here. It's just this one section.
Yep.
And by adding more to it, there would be a de minimis change in that peak flow. The peak flow that you see, the increase in 4 CFS, is almost guaranteed 100% just because of the cover type changing woods to grass is what's causing that increase. What goes into our ponds is being captured and controlled, and peak flows are being mitigated because of the driveways and the rooftops.
Are all of the rain gardens, I guess primarily on the 2 common driveway setups, are they on the lot that they're servicing?
It's a division of both. This one is not. This one is on the lot 3.
Okay.
The common drive, so for this one, it's on this lot with its frontage, so there will have to be a maintenance agreement between these properties when they're
Okay.
No,
sold.
that's similar to the Mrpc,
Yes.
Mrpc Cross. And they redesigned it so that every lot had its own individual.
We did. We had to have a drainage easement, so we had to do easements for 2 of the lots. So it's the same situation here.
Okay.
We tried to, but we weren't able to do it. We were afraid of this situation here where we had runoff coming from his yard, actually makes it down across this guy's driveway. So we had to put in these culverts in order to convey the stormwater under the driveways so it wouldn't erode in the future.
So I'm not seeing a long-term maintenance.
Operation maintenance plan was part of it.
Oh, it's in the stormwater calcs probably, right? Didn't we want to go along with the deed for the homeowners to be actually responsible
Yeah,
for
we
it?
have a inspection requirement annually and so on. So-
In these lots, it's a little different because I'm not doing the notice of intent. Northland Engineers is doing it. It's the
Okay.
same thing. These will be tied in. These 2 lots here, I believe, are going to be tied in to an order of conditions, but these won't be.
Okay.
So I believe that's how it was done with Mrpc. Only 1 lot of Mrpc had an order of conditions, but the rest of them were done through planning board. So I believe you did make a condition that they had to be provided in the deed. Something was going to be provided in perpetuity.
So is that entire strip along Holman going to be cleared of trees?
This strip, yes.
The whole thing's going to be cleared?
I don't think it's clear cut. I mean, you can see, I think they've already started, or it was done a year ago or something when they had the A&R plans approved.
But it's just not a matter of you left out the green in that area? It's
No, because again, what we draw on a plan and what they do in the actual field could be different, but based on our layout, our grading impacts, we've showed where trees could be left to maintain a buffer around residences without having to clear cut 10 acres.
Well, that brings up a good point. They could be left, you said, right?
Well, I mean, the plan you approved is what's supposed to be built by.
Okay.
And that's what Jeff Walsh or your consultants are supposed to go out and
Exactly.
inspect
that's what
and
your
do their
drainage
thing.
calculations are based on, the cover. So
Yep.
what's on the plan is what the calculations represent.
Yes.
But that's not a restriction going forward. In other words, the minute the property is developed a year later, each homeowner can decide they want to change things. They may let it grow back to woods, they may clear it for more lawn, they may
don't-
put
I
tennis
don't-
courts in,
I
who
have to
knows?
disagree with you on that point. I mean,
Well-
if it's on the deed,
Well, what's hard to differentiate is there's a lot of flexibility in the stormwater management regulations for residential. Because residential, I mean, if in the stormwater management regs, the DEP, the regs, the first thing says residential does not apply. So it's hard to, I know what you're looking for and what you want, which you guys have a real good grip on it when it comes to commercial and industrial types of developments. You have to meet it.
right,
With residential, it's hard, because once you design it, there's several layers in the bylaw, in the regulations, in the stormwater handbook that say they don't apply, or they apply to the maximum that practical.
Right.
Where it's reasonable, it's kind of unreasonable to have to build a big, giant industrial-looking detention basin in somebody's front yard, But, just so you know, a little comfort factor moving forward, DEP is revising the regulations, which should be out in the next year or so, which I think they're going to require a lot of this stuff now, even for residential. A lot of those exemptions will be taken out.
so you bring up a good point, that they could potentially clear cut everything up to Northfield stone wall. And be fine. There's nothing we can do about it, really.
Yeah,
But
it's-
that's gonna make this even worse.
It's not something that is going to be conditioned as part of our approval, and even if you seek to create the condition, there's no
Right, it's
practical
not
way
enforceable,
to
I understand.
go
Yeah.
enforce.
Which is,
that.
I mean, just another reason that it's kind of imperative that we try to cut that 4 cubic feet per second increase down, if at all possible, and it sounds like you've tried, and
It's,
you didn't want to come here and present that.
no, and I mean, I can present it because it's allowed by the regulations, and we've done, with the size of the rain gardens and the size of the piece stone diaphragms, what we've been able to model, I'm telling you, we have mitigated the impacts to the impervious. It's the cover just in the whole area from trees to grass is what is increasing that number that you can't mitigate without adding a large detention basin downstream somewhere. Like where this flow comes across, all this flow comes over land, where we have our rain garden, this is where the wetlands are. We can't impact any further than this no-touch line. The only way to collect that and slow that down would be a large detention basin in here. And that's in the location where we have our rain garden and where we have our piece stone diaphragms for the water quality treatment. So we're treating our pavement, it's the cover from the grass area and the trees is what's increasing that flow. And you're only seeing that for CFS and again, it's the 100-year storm, it's not the smaller storm events. You're only seeing that because in the 100-year storm event, the runoff doesn't, in the smaller storm events, the initial abstractions across the property is when it models it, it holds that back. The time of concentration, slow that flow down. It fills all the little pockets and voids in the property. In the 100-year storm event, all those voids are filled, so the water is conveyed faster to the discharge point downstream. So it's a conservative way the models run to overestimate flow.
How often do we get 100-year storm events by by their current definition?
I don't know. I mean, just from my in the field experience, I would say it seems like we are having more extreme weather events, just in general. But that's not to say that the next 20 years could be very calm. But
I didn't know how much I didn't know if the definition of a 100-year storm event had changed enough in recent years. Knowing it was increasing, I didn't know if they had redone regs to.
It's once in
account
100
for
years is what their model's based on.
So what's the number now? It was 6.8, 6.9 for the 100-year storm?
100-year storm now is almost 9,
Almost nine.
almost 9 inches.
Okay, so it's increased almost 50% to what it was previously.
Yeah, it's been about six and a half in our area is what the 100-year storm event's been since the 40s.
So the question I ask is the 100-year storm, they've got graphs that showed intensities at the 100-year
Yeah.
storm, and your average 24-hour rainfall was 6.9, 6.8, 6.9 in this area, and now he's saying it's 9, so it's increased almost 50%.
Yeah.
And it's in there, the extreme precipitation tables, so they're meant to overestimate now to try to plan for.
And there's two ways you can interpret that. You can say, well, geez, we need to design because the peak storms are getting bigger, but you can also look at it and say, well, this is a really good design because it's designed relative to a much higher number than it was designed to years ago.
But it's still apples to apples, because you did your pre and your post with that new number, right?
Yep, yes.
So it's still apples to apples. It's not.
Yep. So as I see it, we have really two issues. One is the pre and post development peak runoff number. And then the second issue is the waiver for the total phosphorus removal just on Lot 5. But I think at this point, I'd like to open it up to any public comment if anybody here is looking to make a comment on this particular meeting. Adam, do we have anybody?
I don't see anybody with their hand.
Okay. All right. So we don't have any public comment. I mean, I certainly share Mr. Allison's concerns, primarily with this project because of its proximity to the Mrpc and knowing that whatever is developed here could potentially have a negative impact on Hickory Hills. And I think as a board, we just need to come to grips with those two issues, the peak runoff, and also the waiver for the total phosphorus on Lot 5. I don't know. It's a challenge because
And if I may, it just want to over-exaggerate again. It meets the DEP stormwater management regulations, and it meets your stormwater management regulations. It is an increase, agreed. Never going to deny that, but it does meet both the state and the local regulations.
Yep.
With the increase.
Per that, to the extent practicable.
Yes.
Yes.
which is a
Pretty
very-
soon you may have,
It's like they're only going to get worse.
another leg to stand on, but for now, that is the regulation. And that's,
Exactly.
and I'm telling you, this is, we've sized these and designed these as much as we could to mitigate that number.
Well, and there's always alternatives. You could say, well, instead of building 6 houses here, you could build 3 houses, and that would cut your disturbed area in half and so on. But that doesn't help the housing crisis either. And so as a board, we're always trying to make a determination relative to what's the property owner's right and lot sizes and zoning requirements, but also meeting stormwater regs.
And the reality of it is too, the properties meet zoning. It's been laid out with common drives to minimize impacts to buffer zones, to reduce impervious, to reduce the amount of clearing and earthwork that would be required to develop these lots otherwise. So, all those things have been considered.
Oh, something else is, didn't we approve 3 curb cuts on Northfield? The lot, what, 3 on the corner? The corner was supposed to have access on both roads, I thought. So that's a plus.
I don't recall.
I'm pretty sure that was the case.
And Northfield is the scenic road, I believe.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think the corner lot on Coleman and Northfield, I think we approved a cut on Northfield for that. I remember asking, why do they need 2 driveways? Maybe that was...
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yep.
But it's minimizing the impact on Northfield at this point. Within the regs, yeah. Except for the waiver.
Well, I guess we could address the waiver
Well,
first.
Okay, and also, I don't have as big a problem with the waiver either because it effectively is meeting the requirement, he just can't take credit for it
Yes.
because of the separation and so I think it's appropriate, it's only for 1 lot and it does have a long channel it takes to go through before it gets to the wetlands, which allows for more potential.
Which in the bylaw, in the DEP regs, it's called the grass buffer strip. So if you have 20 feet, I think you're allowed like a 20% credit. And if you have 50 feet, then you're allowed a 50% credit, which we've got 100 feet there of grass that's going to flow over. So it will receive more treatment than just the pea stone diaphragm.
Do we have the inspection requirements and all that? And Adam, you'd know that better than anyone in terms of what we did at Mrpc, and I know this property here, you're gonna have a notice of intent on 2 of the lots?
They do have the operation and maintenance plan is in the stormwater.
Okay, and that
And
reflects,
it reflects the one that you approved for Coleman Street and for Mrpc Road. It's very similar. It lays out when things need to be inspected. There's an actual inspection sheet. It gives a cost estimate, and it gives remedies to failures for the pea stone diaphragm.
okay. Because I would like to go through and hammer out those details in terms of just making sure we have everything in order with the inspection requirements and the deed restriction and so on.
So this is the O&M plan,
Okay,
and it lays out what it is, who's responsible for the different functions, and then it also has the year-to-year inspection paperwork. So this would be the report theoretically that gets submitted, because these are the items that are required to be maintained. And then what we've done, what we did on Mrpc was we added a specific condition about those lots that had shared systems, that they need to be located on the deed, they need to have the easements, and that they need to go up to it.
all right. Any other comments or concerns? I think we should probably take up the waiver issue first, because if the waiver isn't approved, that would certainly have an impact on the plan overall.
I've never been a fan of waivers.
I have a tough time supporting it just because of this site's proximity to the Mrpc and knowing that that particular lot backs right up to the wetland structures and so on, but
Well, not only that, I mean,
Also have a lot of respect for the amount of time and effort that Mr. Marchetti's applied here, and I feel like this is the best approach under the circumstances, but that doesn't change the fact that the limitations of the lot are such that the phosphorus can't be treated, so.
so my other concern for Lot 5 specifically is that the erosion controls butt up against the house. They use the house as part of the erosion controls, is that correct? That's what this plan shows.
This is the issue Mr. Marchetti was talking about with the
Yeah.
CAD, the CAD, I don't even know what to call it, snafu, when they were swapping back and forth. In the review
Erosion control points there.
that conservation administrators did on,
That dash line is a limited clearing line, is what it's labeled in this plan.
There's an arrow pointing to it up on Lot 4 that says proposed erosion control barrier tip.
All right, and the lot over here says limited clearing as well, the note here on lot 5. So it is, it can, we can certainly move it behind it.
So,
And there's no buffer zone there on it, so,
well, that wasn't my primary concern. My primary concern is the house built up against the forest is not gonna, that forest is not gonna stay, so it's only gonna get worse. I mean, there's no way that you're gonna have a very large house. 24, 16.
I can move that line.
So it's like a 70-foot long house. See what I'm saying is this is proposed to stay forest and
But
that-
the next owner will likely clear cut it so they have a backyard.
but again, we're back to the snafu that there's nothing we can do about that. But if we go ahead and grant them a waiver and accept that it's over, I mean, this is the last time we have an opportunity to do anything, quite honestly, and I just want to remind everybody that. Because once this gets sold off to individual homeowners, then pretty much single-family homes are exempt from stormwater for sure. And there's no forest police on individual families, single-family homes. I mean, I can see why it's done that way, just to make the overage less, but, So did you say that there's no wetlands to the northwest?
Not to the north, they extend up here and stop up here. So this, the development on this lot won't be in the buffer zone. So these two are gonna require conservation approval, but these won't.
So the drainage that runs off of the road is not considered part of the delineated wetlands, is my interpretation.
Or the buffer zone, no.
Okay. So as you get to the back of Lot 5, this is where the wetlands start, but it's a low point, and the water runs through there, but that's just the water running off of the road, so my interpretation is it's not part of the wetlands delineation.
That's correct.
Which, okay, and I agree with that, but, so groundwater was at 2 feet everywhere?
Not everywhere, just on this lot. So where testing was all done in the proximity of the house and septic system.
So I don't see a finished floor or top of concrete or anything for that house.
I believe the septic plan is detailed that. Not on this plan. Let me just double check that. I don't have the septic in here as part of this, but.
Well, it's
I
on,
mean, 104 is coming down the drive here, 104 down to low point, back up to 104. So your garage here is gonna be at probably 104.5, and then you'd probably be around 106 at finished floor of the house here.
I mean, it's on all the other houses as well. I mean, that it just seems like a red flag to me, that,
What's a red flag?
well, the erosion control going right up to the house and then not proposing to cut any trees adjacent to the house.
I mean, that's a very minor plan change, and it would have a very minor impact on any stormwater calcs.
But I mean-
That line might be just drawn that way, and the drainage delineation might be a little bit different. I'd have to.
Are the lot lines reflected on that?
Yes, they are on here.
So it looks like you've got 100-ish feet or so back from the house to the lot line.
To the back?
Yeah.
Down the backside?
That way, yeah? Because the house looks to be about 70 feet. But I mean, you've got a 98 contour there, and you've got a 104 in the driveway.
About 100 feet behind it.
So you don't think you could use that low point, that 98, to do anything? Or is it gonna go around it?
No, I mean, that's where it all runs, and the closer you get down to that drainage channel, the higher the groundwater is.
So you don't think you could build something with a 2-foot separation from groundwater to the bottom and then sides enough to capture?
No, not without, because I mean, we're running down, we're at 104 here, 103 in here, so we've raised the grade to get the driveway up higher so we could get the flows to get down there. Otherwise, this area is really flat, so there's, I would say, less than a 1% pitch across the yard here to get back to that. And the septic system has to be incorporated into all the grading around this, so based on the test pits in the septic system design, that's why we're at 105 in the septic system. That gives us that minimum separation in groundwater here.
And then speaking of septic systems, do you have the reserve trenches between the primaries?
I'm not exactly sure how that was laid out. We didn't do the designs for the
You
septic.
didn't do the septic,
We didn't do the septic designs. Northland Engineers did.
so I don't see any reserves.
The blurb you see for SAS on all these lots,
Yep.
the grading accommodates all of the primaries. So the reserves are adjacent to them, but then none of them are, to the wetland side of it. They're all within the footprint of the development. So none of the reserves would have any more impact on.
No, I know, but I mean, if they weren't planned for, then
Oh,
they
they
have
definitely
to,
designed a plan.
they have to go somewhere, right?
They've all been approved. They wouldn't get approved.
Right, they
without-
wouldn't get approved without it.
Well, at this point, I think that we should probably consider continuance and see if we can address some of these issues, primarily that revolve around Lot 5, before we consider the waiver. The only other concern that I had that doesn't really impact that waiver is I'd like to go back and have an understanding of, I remember doing the A&R and I remember a common drive, but I don't know if we approved both of these because neither one of them splits the lot line between the properties.
That's a
And
good
I
point.
forget
That's a good point. I hadn't even
how
noticed
that.
that.
Mr. Bernie, do you recall on this particular project how we worked out the common drive issue?
I'm not clear on the Holman Street Common Drive. I thought it was intended to split the lot line. I do remember you giving relief on the Northfield Common Drive for the location on Lot 5 alone. And
Okay.
if I'm recalling correctly, it was a scenic road issue where there was a piece of the wall there that was not as substantial as the other wall, and the argument was made that that would be a great place for a common driveway, and the board agreed.
Yeah. That was my recollection, that on the Northfield Road side, we granted a common driveway
Here.
for those two lots. So lots 1 and 5 would be serviced by a common driveway that wasn't divided by the lot line,
Correct.
to minimize the disturbance to this scenic road and the wall. But I
That is
don't,
also my recollection.
oh, okay.
And I think at the time, there was not a formal location for the homes on lots 3 and 4. And they had indicated that they intended to do a common driveway, but they were unsure what the layout would look like. And they were waiting, soil testing for their septic systems. And that was going to drive the layout of where they put the houses and how the driveway interacted with Holman Street.
All right.
And it's somewhat difficult to tell on the plan in front of us because it appears that this lot line here carries through the driveway to the north.
Yeah. I don't even see frontage on lot 4.
Yeah, I was wondering that.
So it could be that the lot line is in the driveway somewhere. I'm having trouble getting my computer to open the file explorer to get the scenic road plan, because I keep trying to pull it up and it won't let me.
Well, yeah, so again, we're looking for frontage on lot 4, but if it doesn't split the lot line, then don't we need like an access easement over one lot for the benefit of the other? And I mean, especially for lot 3 and 4.
That's generally what the board has looked for in the past.
So we'd need an access easement along lot 3 for the benefit of lot 4, because they need to have an access agreement across lot 3.
But would that
Well-
be as part of the stormwater permit plan, though, as opposed to?
No. Well,
Right?
no, but to the extent that whatever that process changes on this plan, it would become part of it. Could you identify where the lot line is between lot 3 and 4? It's difficult
I
to
believe
see
these both
here.
come off, and it's over here on the other side of the wetland. I think
Okay.
It's frontage off the plan, so.
Okay.
The plan I have, the existing conditions plan, doesn't show the full.
Yeah.
So to be perfectly
So
honest.
lot 4's frontage is
Yeah, that's what I figured, it was up there.
to the north. But they're accessing through lot 3.
So Brian, just to be perfectly honest, in dealing with this property, we've gotten a lot of hand sketches and assumptions and kind of back of the napkin sketches. And really, all we've seen is an A&R and a scenic road permit. So quite honestly, anything on Holman Street is new to us, I believe. And again, all we've looked at is the scenic road aspect and the A&R, isn't that?
Yeah. And I believe, as Mr. Burney said, I believe we approved a common driveway off of Northfield to benefit Lot 1 and Lot 5, and that was primarily a function of minimizing the disruption to the stone wall. So
There was an existing barway here, I believe, for lot.
yeah, so
Lot A.
going off of memory, I think everything on that side's in order, but we would certainly need to take a look at Lot 3 and 4 and make sure that, I don't believe we approved a common drive for lot 3 and 4. And I would assume with the amount of wetlands that are on the north side of the property there, that it would not be practical to try to run the common driveway on lot lines.
Well,
But-
there's a thing about A&Rs is you've created your own hardship. If your frontage is in the wetlands, then you've created a lot that's inaccessible, and I don't think doing a limited project to gain access to your single-family property that you've created is appropriate. So, it's just one of those weird things. Nothing against you at all, but this is probably the first CAD drawing I've seen of this property.
Well, I mean, unfortunately, with the layers of permitting and regulations that are involved in modern-day construction, you end up in situations like this where you get halfway through the process and for one reason or another, you can't meet a criteria, so you need to go back and twink things a little bit to make it work.
Right, but this is still under common ownership.
Mm-hmm.
So this is still one parcel. Even if it's not under the previous owner, it's still one parcel. And creating your own hardship is something that we warn people against when they come here for A&Rs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the A&R had to have been a CAD drawing. Adam, can you help us out here?
It was, honestly, I would have to really do some searching to try and find the A&R. I could produce it for the next meeting. I don't know that, I'd be successful trying to do it right now.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the scenic road.
This is the decision.
Okay.
So lot 1 and 5 have a driveway entirely located on lot 5.
Which is exactly what's on the plan.
Correct.
All right.
And it doesn't say anything about up on the other because it wasn't part of the scenic road.
Correct.
And if I'm remembering correctly, these 3 lots were included, the lots that have frontage on Northfield Road were included in that drawing, and these other 2 lots were kind of like grayed out amorphous concepts at the time.
Mm-hmm.
As they were being designed and purchased in two different transactions, or so I think that they, excuse me, at the time felt that these didn't require scenic road approval, and so they hadn't put a lot of effort or energy into the design that was up there.
All right.
I mean, while the driveway is not, the location of the driveway and whether it meets the zoning is not a specific requirement within the stormwater permit. If this were to be approved as shown, there is the requirement that the board approve a location of a common driveway, not splitting the lot line between the 2 lots it serves. And at that point, it would be up to the applicant to make that request. And if the board felt that that wasn't an appropriate location for the driveway, it would impact their stormwater permit that they had already had issued, and there'd be a need for them to file a modification.
Yeah. It would certainly be my preference that we address the common driveway aspect first, just in the interest of clarity.
Well, I mean, not only that, but I mean, what's the regulation that your lot must be accessed through its frontage?
That is the definition of frontage.
Okay, so it's definition of frontage, so the frontage is not even shown for lot 4.
Correct. And I think, and ultimately it would be the building commissioner's interpretation, and I think that the presence of the common driveway bylaw and the permissibility for the board to approve a location alternate to that outlined in the bylaw would supersede the definition of frontage and the requirement that you access through the lot line that constitutes frontage, because it is a special exclusion that is outlined in the bylaw, and thus would modify, I believe, the definition of frontage in the individual instance where a driveway is provided outside of the requirements of the common driveway.
All right, well, I just,
And I mean, I think the example would be much like Lot 5. So by the definition, Lot 1 has no frontage because the access is being provided through another lot's frontage. And that's permissible under the common driveway statute for specific reasons that the board felt were appropriate in that instance. I'm not arguing that the other instance meets those same requirements. I'm saying that the presence of that bylaw would negate the requirement that you access through your frontage.
yeah, I'm just realizing that Lot 4 is landlocked on this plan. It's a scary thing because,
Yep.
because its property lines both go past the wetland boundary. So we apparently approved an A&R that was inaccessible.
I don't believe that the presence of wetland is enough to disqualify approving the A&R. Even if it's a full blockage, it has to create a truly illusory access issue. And just wetland that could theoretically be approved to be altered by the Concom doesn't qualify as a problem for A&Rs.
Okay.
I'm working from memory on that, about a year and a half old, but I'm pretty sure that's correct.
Well, and we had a similar issue on another A&R and had that discussion, and that point was brought up, but then there were a couple of interpretations of that, but I think to the extent that we need to address the stormwater permit really is what we need to focus on, and to the extent that these issues play into that, then we need to address them, but some of this is certainly outside the scope of.
I don't disagree with you, because this is outside the scope of the stormwater permit, but as I said already, we received a bunch of hand sketches on napkins and approved a bunch of stuff. We kept asking for better sketches, better sketches, better sketches. We did not get them. I'm not happy at all with this.
Well, I think under the circumstances, our best move at this point is to continue the hearing and give the applicant the opportunity to address some of these concerns and flush out some of these details. Do you have any idea where they're at with the notice of intent process?
They just filed.
Okay.
They'll be on Wednesday's Concom hearing. I'm sorry, not June 1st.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. All right.
It's kind of, I understand your confusion. I got pulled in late. Somebody else has been working
Oh,
on it.
yeah,
I'm saying
I know,
after that,
and I can't stand these kinds of projects, because, you know, it just.
Yeah, and this is, please don't take this as any
No,
reflection
certainly
on
No, I don't,
you.
but I think that's
It's,
why I'm getting it now, and we're trying to get this solved and worked
Yeah.
out.
yep. But this particular parcel, because it was in the forestry program, there was a right of first refusal process, and that process was very unclear, and it got approved, and then it came back because they needed more acreage than they applied for, and then we went through the same thing with the scenic road, and so we're just trying to get everything organized here, so. Do you have anything else you would like to add at this point?
No,
Okay.
no, I think.
And you have a pretty good understanding of our hangups?
I think, you know, besides a couple of the minor details, really understanding the other common driveway, where the frontage is, how we got to this point. Stormwater wise, you know, I just want to stress again, it meets the intent of the bylaw, it meets the bylaw, it meets the regulations. You know, we can try to add additional BMPs or bigger BMPs to try to mitigate that flow somewhat. I don't think we're ever going to get to meeting pre-posts in a residential situation. I'll certainly look at what we can do to raise this lot, to collect more of it, if not all of it, but at least a portion of it, to try to get, I mean, I think it's gonna be a matter of, at this point, trying to raise the driveway up as high as we can. Try to force the water back to collect it. You know, it's likely gonna result in a lot of fill.
You
in
can't-
order to try to get the stormwater.
You can't have ponding next to the septics either.
You can't, you're 50 feet. You have to be 50 feet from the septic, so I have to consider that when we're draining back to here. But
And then if it comes to that, you probably should get a good, strong idea of where the reserves are. Just,
we have all the grading. I just didn't, we never include the reserve grading on the plan, because it's not gonna be.
but if you put a rain garden where the reserve is supposed to go, that's gonna cause a problem, right? We had that happen recently.
All right.
You looking for a motion?
Yes, please.
I move that we continue this public hearing to, is the next June 13th good? So, I move that we, move the Northfield Road, Holman Street Stormwater Permit to, June 13th at 6:05.
I would second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And I for myself. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, our next public hearing is for 260 Falula Road, stormwater permit and site plan approval.
So, which parts of this am I supposed to read then?
Oh, everything except, everything that we didn't already cover. So basically, the materials are available for viewing. Well,
Okay, through that
so
sentence?
this meeting will be broadcast live. You don't need to read that,
Got it.
because we've already
Okay.
done that.
Thank you.
We did that at the opening meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
The Luneburg Planning Board will hold a public hearing on May 23rd, 2022, 6:05 PM, Town Hall, 17 Main Street, Luneburg, MA, to hear and review applications for site plan approval and stormwater management permit under Chapter 250, Section 8.4, and Chapter 204 respectively of the Code of the Town of Luneburg for construction of a 367,000 square foot warehouse and distribution building on Airport Road / Crawford Street in Fitchburg, MA, with a portion of the development extending into Luneburg, MA at 260 Falula Road, maps 116 parcel 1. Applicant is Fitchburg Land Property Owner LLC, 133 Pearl Street, Suite 300, Boston, MA. Owner is Fitchburg Redevelopment Authority, 166 Boulder Drive, Suite 104, Fitchburg, MA. Materials are available for viewing at the planning office, 960 Massachusetts Ave, Luneburg, MA.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Brenner. Good evening.
Good evening. For the record, Chris Anderson with Hannigan Engineering, here on behalf of the Fitchburg Land Property Owner LLC, the applicant for the project. Just to give a quick overview, currently this is a property that's located both within the city of Fitchburg as well as the town of Luneburg. It's split almost 50-50, with the Luneburg property line being shown right through here. It partially bisects the proposed building and splits effectively the land between the Nashua River and the Baker Brook. Currently, the property is a vacant parcel of land. It's been utilized by the city of Fitchburg for various uses over its entire lifetime. Part of it's utilized for recycling of compost materials, general refuse disposal, as well as sand and gravel operations. So it's a extensively redevelopment project on behalf of the applicant. But it's the intent of the applicant to construct a 367,000 square foot warehouse distribution center building. Access will be provided off of Crawford Street and Airport Road, which are effectively the same road. It just splits a little bit down the road from one another. These access points will be located within the city of Fitchburg, so there won't be any direct tie-ins to the town roads of Luneburg itself. Access is going to be provided via 2 entry points, one being located along the Nashua River or the airport road entrance. That'll be utilized exclusively for employee and visitor entrances for typical pedestrian vehicles. The airport road, which is the more southerly roadway you see on this plan here, that will be utilized for primarily truck entrances. We're trying to separate the flow or traffic flows as much as possible. So it's the intent that that roadway will be utilized for truck traffic. This roadway is located pretty much exclusively within the town of Luneburg. This provides access to the loading dock area that faces in a westerly or easterly direction, and is also located within the town. There's a supplementary access road around the building for emergency access, as well as just general traffic flow for the use of the building. Stormwater is split between 2 different systems, if you will. The first system is located within the city of Fitchburg. That is located along the westerly side of the building. That will incorporate 2 large infiltration basins that are designed to hold and accommodate the flows from about 3/4 of the entire site. Utilizing infiltration, it's a very sandy site, so we're using infiltration right into groundwater for the peak rate of mitigation. The second system is comprised of a series of underground storage systems and infiltration basins that direct water towards the southerly entrance, or the truck traffic entrance, if you will. It's stepped in order to help alleviate the surcharge flows we typically see during large storm events, so there's multiple levels of protection. And this system also ties in directly to this stormwater system for Fitchburg within Crawford Street again itself. Site will be serviced by municipal water and sewer from the city of Fitchburg. We're currently working with the city of Fitchburg in tandem with the town of Luneburg. We are currently before the Conservation Commission with the town of Luneburg. We continue to the last meeting pending DEP comment, which we have yet to receive, but we're hoping to get that anytime soon. We did receive comment from Graves Engineering late this afternoon. Taking a quick look through it, it's a little bit more of a cleanup of notations and stuff like that. A couple comments that we just need to address relative to design criteria. But we understand that we haven't provided anything, and it's going to require some plan changes, so we will be coming back before the board at a later date for that. And at that point, we'll also try to address any other comments from the various city and town departments at that point in time. So this meeting is more of an introduction to the project and get the initial first feedback from the board and the public relative to the project in upon itself. With that, if there's any questions from the board, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Any comments, questions?
So you said the 2 water bodies are the Nashua and the Beaver Brook?
Baker Brook.
Baker Brook.
Yep.
So where are the railroad tracks in regard to relation to this?
So the railroad tracks are partially located right here. They're on the opposite side of the Baker Brook.
Okay.
So the property is effectively bounded by the stream itself, and everything on the opposite side is the MBTA trail, or the railroad system.
Okay, so that's on the other side of the street.
Is there anything in Graves' comments that you'd like to point out or go over with us? Most of it seems pretty straightforward, more clerical.
Yeah, a lot of it's clerical. A couple comments are more relative to design criteria. For example, there's 2-to-1 interior slopes on infiltration basins. Typically on the fill side of the basin, not the berm itself. 2-to-1 is a typical appropriate treatment for that area. So we'll review that with them. I'll note that the berms are designed for the abatement criteria of stormwater management, so that all is situated. So I think that's more of a review criteria. on that part. I think a few of the other comments specific to more of the site plan approval process through Fitchburg and through the town, we can address pretty easily. The roadway openings and driveway openings around the property, stuff like that. We're showing most of them. There's a couple that we might be missing, but we can review that and clean that up as well as part of the next round of submissions. And besides that, it's pretty much just like you said, more clerical, cleaning up some notations and making sure everything is copacetic with the various models and designs.
Do you have a landscape plan prepared?
We do have it's a form of a landscape plan. We are providing landscape trees around the perimeter of the site to be compliant with the town's regulations. Fitchburg also has a second level to that as well, so we're providing landscape beds and mulch beds around the site as well. One of the added benefits of this project also is, might not be as considered to the board itself, but the project is located extensively within riverfront areas of the Nashua and the Baker Brook. And within both of those areas, we're actually providing an enhancement of the riverfront. So we're cleaning up some of the invasives, fixing some of the degraded materials. Because if you were to drive out there today, it's not the prettiest site in the world. Some areas are sand and gravel with a rapid erosion. We found a concrete pad that was pretty much several hundred feet wide in one area that was used for, I believe, wastewater treatment at one point in time. So there's a lot of stuff out there, but it's our intent to clean that up and restore quite a bit of the riverfront area on this project, both within the town of Luneburg as well as Fitchburg. And we'd be utilizing primarily wildlife seed mix and pollinator mixes to help boost that issue that's currently widespread through our area.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
I haven't read through all the Grave stuff yet, but one of his comments on the zoning bylaw to do with site plan review, I think, is the proposed parking spaces are 18 feet long. It's Fitchburg's requirement?
Fitchburg's, I did take a look at that. I think only a small portion, there's only about 40 spaces located within the town of Luneburg. So I think the resolution to that would be on the lateral ends, the short ends of the building, increasing that to the 1 foot, or giving that the extra foot. That way we're not adding additional impervious areas within the town as much as possible. I think that might be the best solution. But again, something we're going to be reviewing, and
I might suggest you ask for a waiver on that too.
Gladly.
I honestly can't see the need to have a huge facility in Fitchburg that's got a small piece in Luneburg have a bunch of different size parking spaces. It just doesn't make any sense to me, but you know, it is in our bylaw, so. And I'm just one person, so.
Yes, sir.
You did expect to have this continued, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Any member of the public that would like to comment on this project? No. All right.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I may just ask if they have an idea of what their time frame is for the city of Fitchburg, only because, not that our approval would force Fitchburg one way or the other, but it may be more advantageous to try and wrap the two approvals up in a similar time frame to avoid any changes that Fitchburg may require having impact on Luneburg and having them need to reopen the hearing and rehear it. I did speak with the city planner in Fitchburg, and my understanding is they're still in the really preliminary stages and haven't moved too far forward with site plan approvals specifically. As a matter of timing, I just want us to be on the same page.
Yep.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you for that input. This is certainly a unique situation where you need approvals on both sides, and my thought process would be that we would leave the hearing open until you are all squared away on the Fitchburg end of things, since the majority of this project is in Fitchburg. So, Is there anything anyone else would like to add? I mean, there's certainly a list of peer review comments that need to be addressed. And so, do you have a meeting scheduled with Fitchburg at this point?
Yes, so right now we're on the docket for the end of June for that
Okay.
meeting.
So realistically, we should probably continue this out beyond that.
In theory, yes. I think maybe I don't know when the board meets in July. I know that's a very hectic time frame for any board. But at least tentatively, let's pencil in like the first meeting of July, if at all possible. That way we should be at least a good chunk through Luneburg Conservation and Fitchburg Conservation, and have had at least a second round of review with the Fitchburg Planning Board.
Yeah. So that would be July 11th?
That's-
Correct?
Yes,
Yeah. And then if you reach a point where you don't feel you're ready to come back here, we can always continue.
Absolutely, yeah.
So I would entertain a motion to continue the public hearing for 260 Fallula Road stormwater permit and site plan approval to July 11th at 6:05 PM.
So moved.
I will second.
Excellent. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And I for myself.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our hearing for 43 Summer Street has been continued.
so I would ask for a motion and a vote to continue that to the 13 June meeting.
I would move to continue the hearing for 43 Summer Street to June 13th. Do I have to give a time on that?
6:05.
At 6 o'clock?
6:05.
6:05, sorry, PM.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And I for myself. All right. Do you have any comments that you, okay. Just don't want to make you sit through a meeting if you had something to add. All right. Moving on to committee reports. Luneburg, oh no, we have minutes approval for May 9th. Has everybody had a chance to take a look at the minutes?
Yes.
I move to approve the minutes of May 9th, 2020?
I would second.
2022.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 And I for myself. All right, committee reports. Luneburg Municipal Design Committee.
Yes, we met last Monday. It was a joint meeting with our group, and in attendance was also the school committee. They presented a letter from the superintendent of schools to our representative on the building committee from the school committee on the four current activities of the schools going on currently in the TC Passios, and discussion was had about what would happen if they were no longer able to use the site. There were 4 programs. I apologize for not knowing the 4 programs that were affected, but they are currently going on in the TC Passios. The consensus was that all 4 programs would have to be considerably reduced in participation and/or discontinued if they were not allowed to continue happening in the TC Passios. I felt strongly one way or another on that, and I won't taint the group's discussion on that with mine. So we're moving forward, looking at the Vertex and Tape studies for the Ritter and Town Hall. And we are moving right along. We meet typically every Monday that we don't meet here.
All right. Excellent. AgCom.
We were not able to get a quorum for our last Thursday's meeting, so there's no report there.
All right. Stormwater Task Force, which was Mrs. Bertram, Open Space was Mrs. Bertram, and Capital Planning was also Mrs. Bertram. Economic Development Committee. Adam, do you have a?
We have not met since the last meeting.
Okay. All right, moving on to director's items.
That's me.
That's you. You're up.
So, let me get back to where I am. The Pondview Commons project is obviously moving forward. I'm going to be working with town council, as I mentioned last time, to put together a 40B summit. I have not received any additional responses on the board's offer to meet, so I'll continue working with that. I know the town manager has put it out to the select board. As I've indicated, the water district has given a written response that they're interested, and I know that the previous chair of the sewer commission had indicated that they would be interested as well. So that's certainly something that we'll be trying to put together through this summer, if not into early fall. The next issue is over on Flathead Road, and I believe one of the abutters may be in the room tonight with you, and I was just reaching out to the applicant to let him know we were going to be talking about this. He did indicate that he wanted to come and meet with the board while we discuss this. It was brought to my attention that they've started reconstructing the ends of the stone walls, and I believe you all have or have received the email from Mrs. Whalen across the street, and what's on the screen out in front of you is what was constructed to be the terminus of the stone walls for the scenic road at the driveways. I'm not going to put a value judgment on what this is, good or bad. I guess it was expressed to me that folks feel that this doesn't meet the discussion that was put out at the scenic road hearing. It certainly is a more constructed and planned pile of stone, as opposed to the stone walls that we see here in town. And it was raised to me that this may not be in character with the stone wall and may be in opposition to what the intent of the scenic road approval was. In addition to that, there were some concerns raised about the width of the driveways. I didn't have a tape measure with me the last time that I was out there. I had intended to visit the site today, but was unable to. So I will be verifying that the openings are the appropriate width. But really tonight I want to discuss the terminus of the wall, I guess is what I'll call it. I don't want to prejudice anybody on whether or not they feel that it meets the character of the area or the character of the stone walls that exist.
All right. Any comment from any members of the board at this point?
I'm going to mention that I'm an abutter, so I'm not going to recuse myself, but I am a butter.
Okay.
I, for one, don't think that fits the character. It was not on the scenic road permit plans. The openings are, at least that one is in excess of 30 feet. The dimension shown on the scenic road plan was 24. I'm not pleased at all with this.
All right. Any members of the public that would like to step forward?
Susan Whalen, 377 Flathead Road.
Good evening.
The existing stone wall, and I believe that it was stressed at the planning board meeting that any reconstruction was supposed to reflect the existing style of the wall. And this doesn't meet the height, the width, or the style. I mean, there are things that they can do to just blend it in and have the tapered ends towards the driveway. So I'm in agreement with Mr. Allison on this also, that it doesn't reflect the style. I don't know if Adam wants to bring up any other issues or not.
You did send an email that outlined a series of issues that deal specifically with some of the stormwater, not necessarily scenic road. There was another photograph of the area where the underground electric went through. I believe this is for lot 1. And Mrs. Whalen, again, I haven't seen this in person. The photograph certainly doesn't seem to be a wall. It seems to be a random pile of stones. So I don't, and again, I just saw this email today, so I haven't had a chance to discuss it with the applicant as to whether or not that was his final attempt at that, or if they were placing stones to be reconstructed at a later time.
Are there any feelings about what's going to happen with any extra stones? So in other words, some of the stones are going to be used to fill in the opening at lot 5 for the orchard, and then to build the terminus of the driveways. Is there a thought that the extra stones should be utilized to repair the existing stone wall or to be added to the existing stone wall?
It was my recollection that the current entrance to Lot 5, where that opening was going to be the driveway. I know we had just...
No.
That was something that we argued for, and we didn't get it.
Oh, that's right. Okay. That's right. So but that opening's supposed to be closed up.
Yes.
And
That's
they're
correct.
creating a new opening. Okay.
I just, in thinking about the scenic road bylaw, if there are extra stones left over, I just hate to see them just buried, you know?
Yeah, no, certainly the intent is to try to preserve as much of the stone walls and the scenic trees as possible. And this particular project went through a couple of plan revisions to help protect the walls. I know the other issue that we had worked on with this was the utilities in terms of pole locations and underground service and so on, so.
And I guess I will follow up with that. Mrs. Whalen contacted me last week about a poll petition in front of the select board. And the fact that they were Unitil was looking to locate a new pole in front of, I think it was lot 2, in order to bring the electric and have it not cross over the corner of lot 1. I got information this afternoon that poll petition has been withdrawn, and I would expect we will see the applicant looking to realign the lot lines to use the existing pole to bring the electric over to lots 2 and 3. Mrs. Whalen, also, I looked at the plan a little bit closer after we had spoken, and the 2 lots with the common driveway were always intended to have above-ground utilities. So that pole within the lot was going to be there from the beginning of the scenic road here. When I look closer at the plan, it does indicate on that scenic road plan that there is, it will be an overhead wire.
Yeah, but it hadn't had an extra pole though, so.
Correct,
so-
and it will not have an extra pole now.
Okay, good enough.
If I may?
Yes.
Yes.
So, Adam, you said that poll petition had been withdrawn. Does that mean they're not going to reapply?
I don't know. The email I got was from the executive administrator, and it said that they had withdrawn the poll petition after discussing it with the applicant. And in my discussion with the applicant, he said he was looking to potentially realign the polls to be able to show the, to be able to have the electric come through and not cross over somebody else's property.
Okay, I guess my question wasn't clear. Is it got withdrawn from the select board's agenda?
That's correct.
Did it get withdrawn from Unitil?
I don't have that information.
So
What
that,
I have is from the executive assistant to the select board. Unitil was the applicant to the select board, hold on, and it says the Unitil rep met with the builder regarding the Flathead pole petition. Lot 2 and 3 will be served through the existing pole 24, so no need for the pole petition.
okay, so that seems to be fairly clear.
Can I take a look at this?
This is stormwater, yeah, no, the scenic road.
Oh,
I
okay.
just had that available when I
I have the scenic road here, give me 1 sec.
oh, he's gonna screen share, I guess.
Adam, did you find out any information about the drainage at Lot 4?
I didn't, I intended to go to the site today, and I'm on quarantine right now, so I wasn't able to. I did speak to the builder. He indicated that none of the Coltech chambers have been installed. I spoke to our engineer. They haven't done any inspections. So, until I can be on site and walk and look at it, I don't want to speculate. Again, I suspect that they have not installed the septic system at this time either, because they were putting in foundations and some of the septics are in front. And what was indicated to me is that the site contractors were coming back sometime this week to continue working. And it sounded as if they were going to be buttoning up the sites around the foundations of houses that they'd started constructing. And it would make sense to me that they wouldn't have put the septic systems in when they were going to be dropping lumber and bringing the concrete trucks and whatnot in. And I did look through your email and the list of violations of the working hours, and I'll be working with the building commissioner to get that sorted out with him, because he needs to abide by what the permit says.
Adam, you indicated that the applicant will be coming before us to adjust a lot line. Can you elaborate on
That was my
that?
understanding, yeah,
Okay.
so, this is not the plan I thought it was gonna be, but, the utility pole 24 is in this vicinity here. I don't know if you can see where I am.
Yep.
And so it's serving lot 1 by coming in through here. And they had above ground utilities cutting across the bottom corner of lot 1. And according to what I'm told, the Unitil doesn't allow you to fly utilities over a lot that's not yours. So I would expect that we will see the lot line between 1 and 2 shift in this direction to encompass the area where that above-ground utility line is flying, in order to get it to the pole that's out on the driveway before they dive it down to serve 2 and 3.
Okay, so essentially, there's no change in terms of trees being removed or the
No,
stone wall?
it shouldn't affect any of the scenic road stuff. It's just gonna be a thing with Unitil to ensure that they meet the regulations they have to for the installation of the utility line.
So I have a question on that, Adam, is if they can't cross Lot 1 to service Lot 2, then how can they cross Lot 2 to service Lot 3 from pole 24?
That's a great question. I suspect because it's gonna be underground, where they're placing the transformer, Unitil has some other magic relief that they allow. I honestly don't know.
Well, I mean, if it's the case that it can cross Lot 2 to service Lot 3, then I don't see the reason it can't cross Lot 1 to service Lot 2 and 3.
I can't disagree with that logic, and I was told that, and I didn't understand how it would make sense with what they were doing for 2 and 3, but I have found that with utilities, it doesn't always make sense. And I don't know if it's a matter of where it comes off of the street is different than where it is once it's on a lot. I try not to speculate with utility companies.
Okay, so it is possible that they're going to flare 2 and 3 to include 24 and 25, because utility pole
Well,
20...
no, because 2 and 3 are being served by 24.
They're not being served at all right now. The plan is.
Well, you're right. They're intended to be from what we were shown.
From what we were shown, right, but what we were shown is not acceptable to Unitil, so I'm just making sure that whatever we do to please Unitil pleases everybody. We don't have to keep going back and forth. So I think that should be cleared up, and there's plenty of frontage on Lot 1 and Lot 4 to accommodate Lot 2 and Lot 3 flaring on an
That's
A&R.
correct.
So if they're gonna do it for one, then they should look at doing it for both if they have to. But Lot 5 is also serviced by 25. I'm sorry, Lot 4.
Yeah, 4. No, 4. 4 is 26, I think.
Well, it's shown on this plan coming off of 25, but 26 is also in the frontage.
Oh, 25, you are correct. 25, yeah, that was the one with the big boulders. This is for lot 4.
Well, I'm glad I had that plan set.
Is there anything else you would like to add?
No, I think I covered everything in the email. Thank you very much.
I do want to thank Mrs. Whalen. It's not easy to keep track of everyone who's doing everything, and I know she thinks she bothers me a lot, but it's really helpful that she picks up the phone and calls and says, hey, I saw this, it doesn't make sense. Can you take a look at it? So I want to thank her, and I want to reassure her that she's always welcome to call me if she has a question.
Thank you, Adam.
She said thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Do you have anything else for us, Adam?
No, I think that's all I have for tonight.
All right. Our meeting schedule is 6 p.m. at Town Hall. Our next meetings are June 13th. We will have a public hearing for 494 Electric Ave, and then our second meeting for June will be June 27th. Any board comments or concerns?
We're going to skip over the ongoing?
I think, Adam, you didn't have anything from your ongoing, correct?
No,
Okay.
again, I'm working on the RFP for the master plan. The MBTA communities, we filed the grant, and Pondview, and the other I've informed you of already.
All right.
Perfect.
Any public comment?
Oh, I have a board comment.
Okay.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
And so this poll petition, I also had some discussions with Adam about it, and it brought up a good point in our discussion that planning board tends to be very open and, I don't know, we distribute things, and thanks to Adam and Marjorie. Unfortunately, however, other boards and commissions are not that way as often as they could or should possibly be. This poll petition for Flat Hill, I don't think should have been on the select board's agenda before it came to this board, because that is a scenic road. And for one, that's a scenic road. Anything for poll petitions on a scenic road should come through planning board for a scenic road application or permit or whatever. For two, he already had a scenic road application. This applicant already had a scenic road application, and we approved it with a plan. And come to find out, had I not been paying attention to the agendas, he could quite possibly have had that poll approved by the select board. Then where would that have left us in this scenic road hearing with a poll 24A? And I guess this is a comment, really not much of a question, but you know, it might behoove some people to think about where would that leave us.
No, certainly. We've had a couple of projects that have come before us, whether it's a scenic road or site plan approval, stormwater permit, and, the planning that's involved and the information that's presented isn't always what is built out in the field. And things are changed, and sometimes people respect the process and go through it. Other times, people act on their own. In this particular situation, we had a couple of abutters that were well aware of this situation, and it's good that it was brought to our attention. But certainly, oversight is an issue, and better communication always helps. So, yeah, I share your concerns, Mr. Allison.
So I think this might be a good impetus for some improved checks and balances, and that was directed towards Adam, I guess. And however much input you can have on that, and I would certainly be willing to assist if necessary.
I will look into what I can do.
Any other board comments? All right, and we don't have any members of the public that would wish to comment. Excellent. Well, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. So moved.
Second.
Excellent. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I for myself. Thank you.